title of her speech is One Day I Almost Lost My Best Friend. One day I almost lost my best friend, Diane C. Gray.
Thank you, Madam Contest Master, fellow Toastmasters, and guests. One day, I almost lost my best friend. March 12th, 1993. I met my best friend at a club called Chit Chats. My girlfriend, Lene, she dragged me out that night. I was in a bad mood. Didn't really want to go anywhere. But I said, okay, let's go. To fast forward through, I met this nice guy. He gave me his number. Seriously, I wasn't really even going to call him. But also that night, I lost my keys in Chit Chats. And when my girlfriend, Lene, figured this out, she snatched his number out of my hand, called him, and said, you need to get back over here and help my girlfriend find her keys. He had already driven 25 minutes back to his house to Cobb County. With no hesitation, got back in his car, drove back to the Cobb County to Chit Chats, and helped me find my keys that night. I said, okay, I guess I can give him a call. The next day I gave him a call. I said, thank you so much. December 1994, we were engaged. December 2001, we were married. When I met my best friend, I had no clue I was going to meet one of his mean and nasty friends, Mr. Wagner. Mr. Wagner had visited him before, but Mr. Wagner didn't stay that long, and we never really talked about it. Let me give you a little insight into Mr. Wagner. Mr. Wagner's the kind of guest that comes and he stays, but doesn't like to stay in one room. He moves in, he checks in, he stays a while, and he destroys everything that he touches, and then he tries to go off to the next floor. He's a little nasty something, and he hides in and around things, and he's really hard to catch. Mr. Wagner also likes to pretend to be other people. Today he might be, oh my God, I'm Mr. Earache. Tomorrow he might be Mr. Pneumonia. His whole premise is to shut your lungs down before you even realize he's been in your room. Let me tell you a little bit about this Mr. Wagner. He had no problem pretending to be Mr. Bone Cancer and let my best friend lay up there and put to sleep, and as they took this little screw and stuck it in his hip to pull out some bone marrow, Mr. Wagner, sometimes he pretended to be Mr. Eye Infection, had no problems leaving lesions on my best friend's eyes, or Mr. Glaucoma, and he just covered up his eyes so he could barely see. That's that sneaky Mr. Wagner. I can remember the week of Thanksgiving 2008. My best friend. He couldn't sleep, he couldn't eat, and he was just in so much pain that Monday, even under his protest, I said, you're going over here to St. Joseph's Hospital and we're going to check you in. He walked in, they checked him in, the doctor came out and said, did you know that your best friend, had you not brought him in today, would have either died of a heart attack or blood poisoning before the end of this day? Yes, that's right, Mr. Wagner had killed my best friend's kidneys. And he had shot his potassium level up so high, it was just sky high. My best friend was literally the walking dead. I asked the doctor, I know something about Mr. Wagner. You think this is him? The doctor said, no, we don't think this is Mr. Wagner because this is not a textbook case. That means that Mr. Wagner did check in and say, hey, I'm here. He snuck in through the side doors like a thief in the night. Month after month, I sat there and I watched my best friend. He was in pain. He was weak. He was on oxygen 24/7. We didn't know what to do. They would get him just stabilized to send him home, and we turn around and bring him right back to the hospital for some unknown reason or some setback. Mr. Wagner was very sneaky. He also was sneaky enough to cause my best friend to have to go month after month, 8 hours a day, 3 days a week, and have these long straw-like needles stuck in his arm, one to pull the blood out and one to push the blood back in. This is dialysis. We suffered through this for 6 long months, not knowing what it is. Over and over again, I'm asking the doctors, do you think this could possibly be Mr. Wagner? And the response was, no, we don't know who it is, but we don't think it's Mr. Wagner. Finally, one day, the doctors caught up with him. And what they did, they took this medication that you use to cure cancer, it's called Cytoxin or cyclophosphamide, and they gave it to him, and they evicted that mean old nasty Mr. Wagner. Let me tell you, this has been a long, hard road, and yes, my best friend, he gets tired. But right now, he no longer takes medication for diabetes. He no longer takes medication for high blood pressure. He no longer has gout. And yes, one day he's going to get a new kidney. We have faith, we have hope, and we have grace. And we believe that Mr. Wagner has been kicked out for good. If you had asked me 20-some years ago when I was walking out my door, going into a club called Chit Chats, would I be standing here telling you this story today? I wouldn't have believed it. Telling you this story about how my best friend, he met, he hosted, and he defeated the nasty old nemesis we call Mr. Wagner. I almost lost my best friend one day. My husband, Toastmaster Curtis Gray. Thank you, Madam Contest Master.